based. But the typical protocol is largely to start with meat and fruit, and they eliminate all nuts, all seeds, all typical allergens, coconuts, nuts, gluten, corn, soy, and they slowly take one grain back, at a time until they see what things trigger certain effects in their body. And so one thing you'll notice about it is that we're using purely whole foods, not even any canned foods tonight, other than I put some mild chilies in here. Typically, the autoimmune protocol is non-processed foods, no oil, no sugar, because of course they're highly processed, and foods in as whole a state as possible. So when you look on it, the ingredients panel, you really should only see that one food in that package, and that's what they consider minimally processed. And people are having health benefits from this. Speaking of autoimmune, I highly recommend watching the movie Genetic Roulette. I don't remember the guy's last name right now, but it's a documentary from several years ago. It's called Genetic Roulette. And he shows where many people who are on the sad American diet, they eat a lot of genetically modified foods in these products that they're consuming. And it has developed a lot of leaky gut syndrome, which is often a precursor to autoimmune disease. And so tonight, I just want to push the idea that when we eat whole foods plant-based, we try to eat food in its natural state and as little men prevention food as possible, and especially eliminating non-GMO food. Nothing I've ever served you at any of my meetings are genetically modified. I shun them like the plague. I don't want anything that man has mucked up.
You meant eliminating GMOs.
Eliminate GMOs, thank you. Yes, I don't use them. I don't recommend anybody use them, because we have no studies on these things. We are the study if we eat them to figure out what's going to happen in the long term. So we're going to start, before my pot gets too hot here. Everybody knows my little thing goes a little too slow to start with, but we're going to start on my very last ingredient, the recipe, sorry. And it is the cauliflower cheese. So we're going to start with that. We're starting with half of a medium cauliflower. I'm just going to add this here to my blender. And I cooked it until it's more, it has to be like falling apart. Okay? And of course, cauliflower is awesome food for us. It's one of the cruciferous vegetables. And like its cousin, broccoli, though it's not as potent, it's very great for the body. I'm adding here non-dairy milk. I usually make my milk, but I was out today, so this is organic almond milk. And I'm using some tapioca starch. Tapioca starch comes from cassava root. Cassava root is one of the tubers that actually has B17 in it. It's very high in B17, or laetrile. And some sea salt. And just a little yeast flakes too. What I put in here earlier, I subbed out what I said to you, which is the green olive, for some pickle juice. I do fermented pickles, and that's what we used in place of it. All right. Oh, I guess I didn't plug it in. Yes, I did. we're going to cook it until the starch cooks away and it starts to thicken. Like the last time, you want to keep stirring until it turns shiny and starts to be a little stretchy. So at first you might think it's kind of thin, but it's going to work out really nice for your pizza. This is very similar to my feta cheese recipe. All right, I'm going to turn this down because it takes a minute to see if you can see it here, but it's starting to get thicker. So some of that starch is cooking out of it. Just keep stirring the whole time because you don't want it to stick. And it should become more shiny and just more stretchy. Just about a minute more. And it's really smooth now. Can you see how shiny it is? All right, we're going to put this down here on low. And I'm going to just turn this, turn it off because it takes a while to go lower anyway. All right, I'm going to show you how it looks here. So a lot more stretchy and
Wow.
okay. It will thicken some more. It will thicken some more as you as it sits. All right, so we're going to actually jump back to our first recipe, and I wanted to highlight the Incan culture. I have some ancient Indian culture in me. My grandmother is from Central America, and she has Amerindian. But this is really Incan-inspired dish. And you all know I love bowls. I did a whole class on bowls. And it's so easy to love bowls because you get to mix the grain, the veggies, everything all on one plate beautifully. So we're going to start with something that's very, very common to the Aztec Indians, and that is quinoa. And do you remember what I've said about quinoa and how it's good to pair with a particular pulse? Anybody remember the reason to pair it with garbanzos? So garbanzos is, yes, it's almost a complete protein. And so when you pair garbanzos with, the only amino acid that garbanzos is missing is methionine. And quinoa is rich in methionine. So when you pair those two together, you have an absolute complete protein. So you could well sub this dish with garbanzos, but in the Aztec way, I decided to go with red beans. I grew up with red beans because my mother's Honduran heritage, and so I'm going to pair it with the red beans, but you could use black or pinto in this dish. Their culture also gave us potatoes, a large variety of potatoes. And so I'm pairing this dish with some roasted potatoes here. These are new potatoes. That culture also gave us tomatoes. So we're going to put some tomatoes in there in honor of the Incan culture. My sister, she lives in Ecuador, and she often talks about their corn and maize. They have so many different varieties. Her favorite is called chuclio, but I don't have any of that, so I'm just going with organic corn here. But
Where do you buy the organic corn?
I buy mine from Trader Joe's, and Walmart also has it very reasonably. They're organic steamables, I think is what they call it.
Not a GMO.
Non-GMO. Yes, ma'am. All right. Also, the Aztec culture grew a lot of squashes. So in honor of that, I'm doing some zucchini squash. And I just used my spiral cutter to just make a pretty design. And they also gave us a lot of peppers in their culture. They liked spicy, but I'm just going for little bell peppers here. And avocados. And there you have a complete, delicious meal. And I'm not demonstrating tonight, it's so simple to make, but there is a recipe for my cilantro lime dressing in there. Feel free to sub out any sugar with the pineapple juice, which is what I often use. Rick doesn't like the sugar, the honey, so I usually... So here is our final bowl. Super easy to make. Quinoa takes like 15 minutes to make. Quinoa, it's hard to mess it up. It's 1 cup of the grain to 2 cups of liquid. And again, in my typical fashion, just letting you know that every time I steamed my cauliflower today, I saved my water from my cauliflower and I used it as broth in my quinoa. So just learning to save, zero waste. Yeah.
Are you able to freeze pineapple juice like, you want to use a little bit? Can you put it in a smaller containers and freeze it?
I absolutely do. Rick and I usually buy the can because it's easier for us to source. But if we use it so fast that I rarely have the chance to freeze it, but you can freeze it, no problem. And of course you could juice it as well. I was just also going to demonstrate this. I bought really inexpensively. I think it was $8. And really all you have to do is just...
Wow.
And, even the Spirit of Prophecy tells us to make our food very appealing. And so it doesn't have to take a long time, but all I had to do was wash this, and it's like sharpening a pencil. So just encouraging you, there are nice little gadgets out here to make you feel good about your food. When you feel good about what you eat, you're halfway to health. And there's some pineapple juice that we use.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
I wouldn't have to. I bought that before.
Awesome.
But, I just usually end up buying a peanut.
Right. All right. The next aspect here is so simple, easy. Alicia, I'm going to have you help me with this. I only have 1 container today. So if you can help me, I'm going to make some sour cream for them. That's what I'll demonstrate. All right, and I just like to remove at least half of the skin. Not so easy with these gloves. My gloves keep my fingers from grasping it properly. And then fluff it up a little bit so that
You're doing the loaded potato right now?
yes, ma'am, we've moved on to the loaded potato. And this one's super simple, good for lunch. This is a great one, what I call recasting. Maybe you've made a pot of black beans to take to church potluck and there was just 2 or 3 cups left. Here's a quick idea. I threw these salsas together last night in less than 20 minutes. Very simple to do, and I've given you all my basic instructions there. And so this is a great way to get rid of your beans. And of course you could make them more juicy. The ones back there have, my husband always says, leave lots of juice in there for his. He likes a lot of gravy. And then just load it up with your salsa. I went with smaller potatoes. Obviously, if you're going to do a meal replacement, you do a little larger potato unless you're a small eater. Thank you. Here is our corn salsa. And my daughter put together some really nice avocado guacamole here. And lastly, in our family, we really love to whip up a really quick sour cream. And so that's what I'm going to do for you right now. I'm going to start with my water. And a cup, that was a cup of water. This is a cup of soaked cashews. And I went with 1/4 cup. Some people like it a little more sour, and that's fine. And sometimes a mixture of the lemon and lime adds a really nice flavor as well. Here we're adding onion and garlic powder. And salt. Did I unplug that one? All right, and it will thicken upon sitting. So it doesn't look too thick right now. If you like it thicker to start, which usually I do, I will just go with 3/4 cups. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow, looks beautiful.
It does look good.
That's good.
All right. So we're just going to clear a space here. I'll squeeze it out. All right, I'll be using a nut milk bag, but if you don't have one, a nice big clean tea towel will work for this part. So just like before, thank you, Alicia. I steamed approximately half of, I got all this from Trader Joe's, but half of a medium. It wasn't super large, so I would say more of a medium cauliflower. About half is about 3.5 to 4 cups. I went more towards the 4 cups for each one. It is quite hot, and I wouldn't tell anybody to handle it like I will, but I've kind of destroyed my hands from messing with hot stuff over the years. So I don't really feel heat like most people. All right. I forgot one step, so we're going to go back and do that. I need a fork, Alicia. But that step is to make a flaxseed egg. So instead of using the water, as you saw me put water there in the pizza crust, because that's what we're working on. Thank you. In this case, I used also the liquid that was in my steamer, the bottom of my steamer. Okay. I always cook with filtered water. I also rinse my food with filtered water. And of course I soak my food with filtered water, just recognizing that these are living things. They often absorb the water. So you don't want to use tap water that might have in fluoride or anything harmful at all, okay? This is 2.5 cups of flaxseed meal. My husband ground this just before the cooking class. 2.5 tablespoons, thank you. Yes, that's a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Carol. I'm going to have you travel with me because I'm always correcting Rick if he says or miss something. So
I need you to do the same for me.
you know, I tell him I don't mind. I'm doing it for the Lord, and if I make a mistake, I want somebody to tell me. So the goal of this, to make your flaxseed egg, you actually want it to sit a little bit because you'll notice it gets thick. Like it almost feels gunky like egg. So that's why I realized that.
How much water?
Oh, that was a quart. I think I put 1/4 cup. That's what I've been using in any event, 1/4 cup. So if I didn't put that on there, forgive me, make a note and change it. But 1/4 cup of water or broth. All right, so we're going to go back to squeezing this. It is a little bit of a chore, almost like milking a cow. And you're going to see how much water is in these things that, you know, these wonderful things God has given us, just loaded with water. You can also use this liquid. Just get out as much as you can. Alicia, if you could put on their pizza for me, 8 minutes. We'll probably do 10. Remember the one in the dehydrator.